So this is me, with a few of my neighbors having a party on my front porch. And why we are celebrating is a whole other story, but what I want to say here is that I love my neighbors and I love where I live. In my neighborhood, there are a mix of different housing types that are all set really close together, and that is part of what created this community. We're a mix of renters and owners. Most of the houses are single-family detached homes, but we also have duplexes and small apartment buildings and other housing types. All the lots are small, which means the houses are packed pretty tight. And when I say tight, I mean I sneezed once in my bedroom and my neighbor said, "Bless you," from her kitchen. And I said, "I love you, but never do that again." Because our lots are small and we're right off of a main corridor, we can walk to the grocery store or to the brewery, and we're close enough to town that I can ride my bike to work or take the bus. Having these various options available to me is genuinely delightful, in addition to being practically beneficial for all of us. A few years before I moved in, a large affordable apartment building was developed across the main street from my neighborhood. And from what I heard, the fight to block that project was intense. But I was surprised when I learned about it because I hadn't even noticed the building and I hadn't heard anyone talking about it causing problems, so what was the fuss all about? I have since come to realize that any time a large housing project is proposed, people basically lose their minds. Not everyone, for sure, but enough that it's a pattern you can bank on. And this pattern is a problem on a much larger scale than one might expect, because it's a big contributor to the national housing shortage. And I don't just mean affordable housing, but I mean specifically a shortage as in a lack of supply. We do not have enough homes in this country. And we haven't been building homes to keep up with population growth for decades. So it shouldn't surprise us that housing costs are going up when we are not making enough for all the families that need them. So when neighborhoods get all up in arms fighting new housing, they always say, "I know we need more housing, but just not here." And I get that. Change is hard, and our homes are our safe havens, and we fear all sorts of threats to those places. But the thing is, if literally all of us say that housing shouldn't go on our streets, where will it go? And the answer to that is fairly simple. It goes in the places that don't have people yet. So it's further away from our cities and towns. Construction is happening in rural areas all over the country because the land is cheaper and developers don't have to spend so much time and money fighting the neighbors. They can just cut down more trees, build more roads, and put up a bunch of homes. But what if we could think about housing construction differently? What if instead of worrying about more traffic on our streets or not wanting to see a building where right now we see a tree, what if instead we thought about the people who would live in that house? And what if we thought of them as new neighbors, or maybe even new assets to our community? Because people are more than just new friends. New neighbors mean new opportunities. More people to start new companies or expand existing ones, more donors and volunteers for our nonprofits, more teachers for our kids' schools. People bring so much more to the table than just more traffic for our commutes. I work for an organization called Mountain True, and we launched this program called Neighbors for More Neighbors WNC. And thinking of people and neighbors instead of housing and buildings is exactly what we're trying to do, because people are what houses are built for anyway. And right now we have a lot of people who need homes, and we simply don't have enough of them. But so wait, why is an environmental organization talking about housing construction? Well, we care about the planet for many reasons, including that it's a home for people. But also the built environment has a tremendous impact on the natural environment. So if we want to care for nature, we can't ignore development. And the natural world is experiencing a major crisis. This image is a map showing where biodiversity is most at risk in America. And you can see a lot of dark red in our part of Appalachia because we are a hotspot for species at risk of vanishing. Climate change is accelerating. And according to the EPA, the transportation sector is the largest contributor to man-made greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. So the more that we build homes further from the places that we need to get to, the more we're accelerating climate change. But if we build in and up in our cities and towns, people can drive less, or walk, or ride their bikes. Another major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in this country is burning fossil fuels to heat and cool the buildings that we live in and work in and shop in. Heating and cooling structures accounts for nearly 50% of all energy use in the US. So if we had less indoor space to heat and cool, that would help. Multifamily structures are actually more energy efficient in multiple ways. For starters, the simple fact of sharing walls is more energy efficient. Secondly, these types of homes are typically smaller than your average single-family detached house, and so there's just less space to heat and cool per family. A third way that building in our cities is a good thing for the environment is that it converts less land, like farms and forests, into rooftops, roads, and parking lots. Western North Carolina is home to some of the most biodiverse temperate forests on Earth. And the more we sprawl, the more of that unique species habitat we lose. So for these reasons and more, I'm proud that Mountain True is growing public support for building housing in our cities and towns instead of sprawling across our mountains. We want enough homes in our community to take care of all of our neighbors, while also minimizing the damage to the natural world. And I believe that we can have both. But it does call us to think about new development differently. Instead of focusing on what we might lose, we can choose to focus on the benefits of having new neighbors that we can meet on walks or borrow tools from, or my personal favorite, enjoy game nights in our pajamas and then walk home safely after a few drinks. So the next time that someone asks you to speak out against development or put up a yard sign opposing new homes, I encourage you to talk to them about some of the benefits of welcoming more neighbors into our communities, both because more neighbors are good, but also because it's a more environmentally friendly way to grow.